Hello, hello, thank you for joining me today. My name is Dana. I am from Divine Goddess Cards, and today I'm going to share two projects using the new Grafix Arts Dura-lar prints. This one specifically is the Whimsical Floral set. The first project that I'm going to be sharing is a mixed media tag. So to go ahead and start off the tag, I'm going to just brayer on some paint to the tag just to give it a little bit of visual interest. And any paint that you have will work for this. I'm just using a craft paint that I picked up at my local craft store. And I'm just going to brayer just a light layer just to give it a little bit of interest. I think I want just a tad more of that. And when I'm brayering paint, I like to just roll it out on my gel plate versus rolling it out on the glass mat. I just find, oh, well now I've got imprints of the little, oh goodness, now I forgot what that's called. The ring. Y'all know what that is. Okay, there we go. So I'm just going to let this dry and then we'll move on to the next step. Then for the next step, I'm just going to add a bit of crackle paste through a stencil in a couple of random places. I'm just going to add that on using a palette knife. Any crackle paste or even texture paste that you have will work for this. It doesn't necessarily have to be a crackle paste. And with this tag, I'm kind of going for more of like a warm, grungy feel. So this does not need to be perfect. Just add it in random places to give a little bit more visual interest. And then I'm going to let that dry and we'll be back for the next step. Okay, so for the next step, I'm going to add a bit of color to my tag here. And to do that, I'm going to be using some Distress Oxide sprays. But you could do watered down acrylic or any type of ink for this step. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these little finger daubers and I'm going to splatter on my tag. Now this is probably going to get messy, so if you want to protect your clothing and your workspace, I'm not worried about it. I don't really have anything around me that I'm worried about. So all you're going to do is you're going to soak up whatever medium that you're using and just splat it down. And then if you have one of these little puffer tools, you can spread it out a bit more, but this is not necessary if you don't have one. You could also use a straw and just blow through it if you don't have one of these. I'm going to go ahead and dry that first layer off with my heat tool. I'm going to do the same thing for my next color. Then I'm going to add just a bit of gold with some liquid acrylic. And I think actually I'm going to put some down on my work surface because my jar is a little bit low here. Oop. Okay, and I'm just going to let that completely dry. Okay, now that everything is dry, I'm just going to go ahead and ink around the edges a little bit. This will just grunge it up a bit more. And then I went ahead and I cut out a little bit of the text sheet that's just about the size of this tag. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to layer this over it. And to adhere it, I'm going to stitch around the edges. But you could very easily just use a full sheet of the double tack adhesive and just glue it right on the top of it if you don't have a sewing machine or don't want to stitch around it. Okay, now that I've got everything all stitched around the edges, I'm just going to trim it up a bit. I did cut it a little bit bigger, just in case things got a little wonky in the sewing machine. But I have to say, this script sheet is my favorite out of this collection. I love all things script. I love all things writing. I just love the look of it. So yeah, definitely need a pack of just this if there's ever an option for that. Okay, there we go. And then if you have like a toner foil machine or a laminator, you could very easily have foiled this in maybe gold or copper. That would be really pretty too. I don't have one, but you could easily do that with this. And then I'm going to go ahead and just embellish this with some of the little embellishments that I created. And to glue those on, of course, I'm going to be using some artist tack. By far the easiest adhesive to use. This is just a bit of cheesecloth that I'm just going to put on here. And I think I'm going to use just a tad bit of liquid glue in the center here, just to glue this on a little bit. like that. So I'm just going to put that right on top. And then with the artist tack, it is movable until you burnish it down. And then to adhere my little wax seal here, I'm just going to use a little bit of the double tack. And I'll pop the wax seal on right there. Give it a good squish. There we go, there's my finished tag project. For the second project, I'm going to be sharing how to make a flat shaker card, and I just took this piece from the Whimsical Florals collection and I just colored it with some alcohol markers. And then I cut it out roughly 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stick that down on a piece of double tack. This I found is the easiest way to glue anything that's transparent, because the adhesive goes over the entire back of it, so you won't see the adhesive. Then I'll just trim that out roughly, and I'll clean it up with my paper trimmer. And if you leave the top part on it, you won't get your scissors or your paper trimmers messy. And then for the background of the shaker card, I just created something similar to the tag that I just showed you. And then for the shaker portion, this is a great way to use any of the old packaging that you have to create the shaker. You could always use a piece of acetate or the clear Dura-lar, but a great way to use up your old packaging. And then the adhesive that I'm going to use, I'm just going to use some red line tape since it's already trimmed out. But if you don't have any of this, you can always just trim out thin pieces of the double tack. So I'm just going to add the tape to, minus my hair, I'm just going to add the tape to the back edge all along all 4 edges. And you want to make sure that they meet up. Your pieces of tape meet up so that none of your little sprinkle bits will come out. And I'm going to go ahead and trim up my plastic. And the nice thing about using little bits of packaging is a lot of them already have a seal on it, so you can use that to your benefit. And then I'm just going to cut around the edge so that there's still some left over. Okay, there we go. Then I'm going to remove 3 of the backing pieces. I think I am actually going to cut this. Then you're just going to line up your piece of plastic to the background so it's mostly centered. It does not have to be perfect. And then you'll just fold over the plastic to adhere onto the tape. And I'll just trim the corners a little bit so they don't pop over the edge. There we go. Now we have our shaker pocket, so it's time to fill her up. So I just grabbed a couple different things, some sequins, some glitter, and some mica flakes. And you can add as much or as little shaker bits as you want. Since this is a flat shaker card, you don't want to go too crazy with the shaker bits, but you can add plenty. And last but not least, the glitter. Get a good bit of that in there. And then you'll just want to seal off the top like you did the sides. And then trim off the corners. And close up your sequin containers so you don't end up with those everywhere. Been there, done that. And give everything a good shake just to get it mixed up. There we go. There we go. Now we got our shaker background. So I'm just going to add the focal point here. So this is just going to glue right on the top of there. There we go. And that is all sealed. The double tack makes that so much easier to do. And then I just created this cute little frame, which I am going to add right on top. And I'm just going to use some liquid adhesive to do that. You could also use the artist tack or the double tack before you die cut it out to do this. I didn't think about doing that, so I didn't grab any. But that is also an option. I'm just going to line it up as best I can along the edge. There we go. I'm going to put something heavy on it and let that dry, and I'll be right back. Okay, so here is the shaker card all done. And I did go ahead and put that on a top folding card base. And then again, here is the completed tag. And you can always embellish the top of it if you wanted to. And those are my two projects using the Whimsical Florals Dura-lar prints. There will be a full product list down below in the description box if you're interested in any of these products. And any of the Grafix Arts products that I've used here today, you can find at grafixarts.com. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you in the next one.